Hi, this is a call to action, and I'm your host, Alex Habersham, and I'm very, very pleased today to be bringing you an interviewee who can not only give you information about what's happening currently in our city and in our area, but one who has a history and whose family has a history of community and historic and civic and spiritual and social involvement. That individual is none other than Mr. Bert Bivins, who is newly elected. I guess it's been about 9-10 months now with the new government, but he's not only a commissioner for the Macon County government, but he's also the mayor pro tem. And I started to give you more biographical data on it, but I'm going to let him do it himself. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, and that's plenty biographical.
No, but it might be plenty for you, but Miss Bivins, what was it, Miss Hester?
Yeah.
It might not be enough for Miss Hester. So let's just begin with her and talk about your family involvement in the community.
Yeah. Well, you know, my mother got us involved in the community, and it stemmed basically from something that happened on a bus one day. My mother always believed that people should be treated fair. We had, my grandparents were sharecroppers. So she knew a lot of things firsthand. You know, she grew up that way. So she knew about disparity of treatment among people. But I remember one day we were on a bus. My grandmother insisted on paying for all of us. And she was accustomed to walking on the bus and handing the bus driver her fare and the money, and then he would make change or whatever was necessary. Well, up here you had to put the money in the little meter, you know. She didn't know that. And the driver was real harsh and mean and said some really mean things to him. And I remember when my mother came to the back of the bus, I remember that's the first time I'd ever seen her cry. And I remember turning away because I didn't want her to know I was seeing her cry. And after that, not long after that, you know, you had the voter registration things that happened, and we got involved in that. The bus boycott, and you know she was going to be involved in that. And from that point on, you know, we were just always involved in something related to the community.
Right. And she's an icon, though she's passed, but she's an icon in this town. And we all remember her, as a matter of fact, the community center at Tyndall Heights.
Right.
It's named after her, Miss.
Yeah. And you know, she got involved with school systems too, because the suit that integrated the school had one of my sister's names on it, because she was willing to sign the complaint where a lot of other people were not. But one of the things, the reason she was so involved in that, first of all, she believed in education and learning. That's why none of us quit school. But the other thing,
we just finished an interview with Dr. Edwards talking about the need for parenting
and that's
this
true.
book.
That's true. But the other thing was, you know, there was boys and girls went to school separate in the white community back then. She always thought that was a good idea, but there was no situation where her girls could go to an all-girls school except the schools were integrated. So that was part of the reason that when she had the opportunity to be involved in the integration of the schools, she got involved because that was something that she believed, aside from believing discrimination was not right.
Now, was one of your sisters one of the first ones to go to an all-girls school?
Yeah, she was in that first group. You know, my younger sister, Shirley, that's the one that was named in the suit. She was one of the first to go with that first group who went to Miller.
Yeah. And then you have another sister who's also has been involved in...
Well, Thelma Dillon, and there are some people who know she's my sister and some don't. Sometimes when conversation comes up and somebody mentions her name, I make sure they know it's my sister. Yeah. You know, it's just like...
Don't talk too much.
Yeah, there you go, yeah. She probably does the same for me.
Well, that's very, very interesting. Well, you have gone on to, along with your other siblings who have been involved in the community, to have a pretty storied career in community involvement. So talk a little bit about when you ran and why you ran and what you have seen and what you would like to, but we're going to talk more specifically after you give us a little historical perspective on when you ran and how long you've been there, and the kind of initiatives that you've been involved in. Then we want to talk some about consolidation.
Okay, well, I've told you about how, the youngster, we first got involved, but it continued from the bus situation with my mother and all that. And once I got out and got to working with voter registration and some other things, the ministers were really involved at that time. So I had a chance to sit around with Mr. Randall and the ministers, and I heard what they said and what they did, and whether you liked it or didn't like it. It was still a learning process. Your father was one of the people back then who was really involved in the community. So I built a relationship with him and a lot of the others over the years. So I came up through a long learning process, and I had been involved in the community probably about 30 years when I first ran for office. One of the reasons that I decided to run was because I was involved anyway. And Mr. Randall was kind of a mentor of mine. And when he announced that he was not going to run, I went and talked with him. And I told him that if he wasn't going to run, I was going to consider it. And he paid me one of the greatest compliments that anybody ever had. Because I know Mr. Randall. I've heard a lot of people come up and say, well, I'm going to run. Will you support me? And he would always want to wait until he saw who else was going to run. I mean, that was just the way he did things. Because he wanted to support the best candidate.
Right.
But that day he told me, he says, I can support you no matter who runs. And I thought that was something I appreciated more than probably anything anybody ever told me about it. And then I went on, but of course, he really died before his term was over.
Right.
And so I ran in a special election and had a chance to win, and I've been there since. And that was in '95.
So we're talking about almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You've had some challenges, so evidently you're doing a good job because the people keep electing you.
Well, I've done my best, and I've tried to and hopefully people believe I've done my best. I don't know everything.
Right.
I can't do everything,
Right.
but I hope people believe I've done the best I can.
Right. Obviously, they do. Now, what kind of initiatives, you were on the county commissioners, when the city and the county were separate. Walk us through some of the things that you were involved in with the county that you kind of feel like you played a role in the success of it.
With the county or with the consolidation?
County.
Oh. Well, in the county, I kind of continued the attitude I had about equity. I changed a little bit from equality to equity because you got to be practical, and I've always tried to be practical. Equity is more practical than equality in everything. And so one of the things I've worked at is trying to see that whenever something went on was that minorities had a chance at it. And that includes doing business with the county. And I know a lot of people, they complain and they say, well, this doesn't happen, but I don't get out there and make a loud noise about every little thing I try to do, but I try to be consistent and insistent that whatever went on in Bibb County, that we were fair to the community overall.
Right, and that's very, very important. Well, about 10 months ago, the government's consolidated, and as you know, there was a whole lot of controversy as it relates to whether or not it would be good for the community or bad for the community. But we've consolidated and we're rolling along. So just give us a take, not only of where we are, because we are consolidated.
Right.
The government is consolidated.
That's the reality.
So that's a reality. So we need to move forward. So talk about, some of the initiatives that are going on, some of the problems that you think have been adequately addressed, and maybe some of the things that you're still working on, and your take on, whether we at least are moving in the right direction.
Well, one of the things that I've been concerned about all along was getting this new government to work and to work for everybody.
Right.
I never really thought about getting involved to the extent I have, though. For instance, mayor pro tem. I never gave that any thought. But I did have some conversation with people who felt that we got a new government and we've had people of color in some positions, you know, some pretty high positions. Like we've had mayor, chairman of the county commission. We even had a majority on those two bodies, and they thought that it would be really bad if we started this new government and it's like we're almost left off.
Yes.
And so the idea came up to me about whether I would be willing to serve as mayor pro tem. And you know, I was kind of reluctant because people start politicking in the world, you know. And I told the individual who mentioned this to me that I had no intention of politicking for something like that. Because what I wanted to see was us to do things by consensus. And I was asked if I would take it if it was offered. And I said, well, okay, I'll do that based on all of the things that they said. So, but I agree that this government needs to reflect the community.
Right.
And so when it really came down to a vote, it was unanimous. You know, everybody voted for me to be mayor pro tem. And so I've had a lot of people ask me, what's the job of mayor pro tem? Your buddy Herbert and I asked me that one time. I said, Herbert, you know what? I'm not absolutely sure about all the details that are in the chart. I said, but I'm going to tell you what I've decided my job is. I did not support consolidation. But when I ran the last time, it had passed. And I told people that if I was elected, I was going to do what I could to make it work. Because, as you just said, it's the reality.
Yes, it is.
And so I said, what I take as my job is to try and get all the people on that board to work together. And the first suggestion I made to the guys was, I said, look, let's not have a situation where we have different committees meeting on different days and on different times. Let's all start our meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we go through all the committees until we get finished. And even if you're not on that committee, you have some input. And then everybody knows what the consensus is.
Right,
and so when the main meeting takes place, you know, on TV and all, there's no need for everybody to be fighting because we've already come to a consensus on what's happened. So everybody agreed to that. That's the way we've been working. And I think that's one of the reasons that you have not heard, you know, because if that committee does something, and when the first time I hear it is when the cameras are rolling, and I'm like, hey, you left my community out, I'm going to say something.
Yes, sir.
So I've already had my say, so there's no need to do that. So I think that has made some difference.
Right.
Now, we all have different backgrounds and different constituencies, so we don't agree on everything. And there are a lot of things we're not, but so far, whenever there's been any controversy, we've had enough people willing to work together that we've been able to get it done. So
now that is absolutely phenomenal because, as you know, people usually, when industries are coming to town, a lot of people don't realize this, but what they do is they check the front page of the newspaper from the community that they are considered.
That's right.
And I dare say that it probably kind of hurt us when there was a lot of differences and arguing in the community, particularly among the politicians, not in the county. You didn't see very much of that in the county, if any at all. So I think that gesture in and of itself will play a significant role, even with the challenges. You know, and there are challenges that will play a significant role in moving the community forward. Is there some other initiative going on that you would like to discuss, or something that you feel that community should know about, or something that you want to solicit the community support on?
Well, one of the things is something that the mayor and I had some discussion a few weeks ago, and he came around and we basically agreed, and the board bought into it. And that is one of the concerns I've had ever since I was first elected was the blight in our neighborhoods. I went to Atlanta, we organized a land bank authority, and one of the first projects was Prince Street. And so you can see the result of that. And you can point to places all around town where there's been some development and some work. But what we're having to recognize now is the problem is getting worse faster than we have the resources to do anything about it. So what the mayor agreed with me on and what the board agreed on is that we should start working to organize the next SPLOST. Now we can institute one for probably 4 years, but there's no need of waiting till then and then start working on it. But we've agreed that we're going to get somebody to come in. We're going to look at what the problem is, why it is, what can be done about to fix it, and what it's going to cost. It's going to cost millions that we're not going to have because we're supposed to be cutting the budget by 20%. And so that's a way to come up with, I mean, we might need to come up with $40, $50 million just to work on that. And that may not do it all, but that would be a big step towards trying to do something about a desperate problem. You mentioned people coming in this community when there's industry. Well, you send somebody here and tell them, drive off the main roads. And what are they going to see? They're going to be bringing some of their people here. And they don't want their people have to be living in the kind of condition that you can see when you get on some of the side roads in our community. And that's why it's so important that we work at it. So we're doing the best we can on that, but we're going to need people who understand what we're trying to do. And when this SPLOST does come, to vote for it and to pass it. Yeah. The other thing is our roads are deteriorating really fast. We haven't had the money to do much about them, and we're not going to have it. So that's another thing then. The money from our next SPLOST should go towards repairing our streets and our roads.
Well, you know, there's a difference in a cost and an investment. And I think it's important for the community to know that anytime anything like this happens and some kind of referendum is submitted to the citizenship, that it's an investment. Yeah. You know, it's an investment in our own community. And, you know, well, I applaud you. Now, if somebody wants to get in touch with you or with City Council, if they've got an issue that they want to address, I know that the government is very open. What is that process?
Well, for one thing is you contacting whoever is the representative, the commissioner in your area is always a good thing. Because I don't ask people where they live. If they call, you just try and find what they deal with. But we encourage people to come to our meetings on the first and third Tuesday at 6 o'clock. You're given an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes, and you'll have a chance, if you haven't been able to catch up with your representative, they should be there, so you can talk to them at that time, after the meetings, and exchange information where you can be sure you contact people. And also, sometimes when people come and they bring a complaint they have, we make sure that it gets noted so that somebody does look at it.
Right. They can just call the general number for City Hall if, in fact, they wanted to get some information, you know, just general information about the city, the government, and its operation.
They can do that, and if they want to contact their representative, they can do it by calling through City Hall. And also, they can be put in touch with whoever is the person that needs to work with whatever the problem is.
Whatever department head or whatever.
Right.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. I'm having an interview. Commissioner, Macon County Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Bert Bivins, who has done a phenomenal job, and you can't underestimate Commissioner Bivins, the power of what you did to make sure that people at least, you know, try to work together on and in that body, because the image that's presented is very important to the community, and it's very important to the growth of the community. So I think that you did a phenomenal job in getting that to happen.
Thank you. But we do have some other things. One of the things I'm concerned about, you know, when we're going to pass this, everybody was saying, well, there's not going to be any job loss. But I believe that there's going to be some effort to get rid of people who work for sanitation, custodial, and those people who do parks and recreation. And that's one of the main things that I'm trying to work on now. I think there's a way to avoid that. I think that we should go to the state legislators, ask them to reduce our, and I've mentioned this even at the last election, that we should have that. Well, about 6 months ago, when the guy who pushed that 20% didn't run. So I said, look, I think if we talk to some of our legislators who are there now, they'll agree, reduce that 20% to 10. And that makes it easier to retain these people. Now you can save money by contracting all those jobs out, but we said we weren't going to get rid of any jobs. And getting rid of those jobs are going to have an adverse effect on our community, because 95% of them are women and minorities. And we have enough problems. We don't need to cut out all of those jobs.
Right.
And so I'm hoping we find a way, and that the guys will agree that we use the method that I've recommended to help.
But it is possible to get it changed to 10 if they would agree.
The state legislators, yeah, all they have to do is decide that they want to change it from 20 to 10, and it happens. And that makes our job a lot easier.
Sure it does.
See, because nobody came to us and said, hey, look, you're wasting all this money here and here and there,
Right.
and so we want you to reduce. They didn't do that. Matter of fact, we've been too prudent, and our budgets were so tight until there was no room really to cut things. And even with consolidation, for instance, we've always had fewer police and fewer deputies than we've needed. And so if you say, now that you got consolidation, you can reduce those numbers. Well, no, because now maybe we have about what we need because once you consolidate. So there's really no place to cut unless you're also willing to say services have to go to. And that's what we don't want to do.
And so,
unless citizens say do it.
no, citizens, everybody wants service. You say you say your fire rate is too high until your house catches a fire.
Yeah.
Then they say, oh, I'm glad we got a good rate.
Yeah, but the other thing though to realize about the fire is that we build stations because we want to keep it low.
Right.
And what people don't think about is, you say you can move to Jones County somewhere, but the difference in taxes is probably more than going to be made up by the fact that your fire insurance is going through the roof.
Absolutely.
And so we have one of the lowest fire rates in Central Georgia.
Right.
I don't know about the whole state, but we might be able to compare with the whole state.
Right. Well, the fire department is doing a phenomenal job, and we've interviewed.
Top rated fire
Yes,
department.
sir. And it makes a difference with it. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Your insurance rate for homeowners is tied
Exactly.
to how close you are to a fire station.
That's right. We're trying to have everybody within 5 miles.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bore.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a good job on that, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate the hard work of the commission, and I'm encouraging citizens, to support the commission. And if you've got a concern or an issue, Commissioner Bivins has advised you on how to get it addressed. Again, congratulate him on being a catalyst and getting the community to work together. And I look forward.
Right. Well, but I'll say this though, nothing I've tried to do makes any difference if we didn't have the people down there who are willing to do these things. We have guys down there who want to make it work. That's why it's working. It wouldn't matter what I try to do if they didn't care.
Right. You got to have support.
That's right.
Yeah. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
Got an idea to make Macon more successful? Previous night-funded ideas and innovations include What's your idea?
Okay, of course the city has a website, and a lot of information is available on that website. Give us their website address.
The website is maconbib.tv. And on that website, though, you can find links to pretty much everything that you might want. Phone numbers, departments, everything.
Okay. So if you got a question or are interested in some element of what's going on with the city, then go to the website and see if you can ascertain the information from there. If not, they'll have a phone number you can call. This is a call to action.
And call to action.
Expressing deep appreciation to Mayor Pro Tem and Hester Bivins' son, Bert Bivins. Have a great day.
www.makingblackpages.com